Well, we're going to get started. So good afternoon and welcome. I'm Andrea Sampson, the CEO of Talk Boutique and your host and moderator of today's Sense Making Conversations. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we have an absolutely beautiful week here in Toronto. The sun is shining and it's been hot, very hot. And if you don't like hot weather, it may not have been quite as nice a week. Many teams are starting to return to their offices and start the process of sharing spaces again. Now, we all have some new rules: social distancing, masks in public spaces, plexiglass between workspaces. We're entering a new world, and each week brings even more new rules. We're all learning to adapt, and employers are busy adapting their standard operating procedures accordingly. 4 months into this pandemic, and I'm sure for many of you like me, it feels like it's been about 4 years. So how do we create relief for ourselves and for our teams? How can we keep doing what is required and still have a little bit of fun? A few weeks back, we had Karen Ward join us, and she shed some light on getting curious again. And the idea of having fun is a great question to get curious about. Karen helped us see that without curiosity, there's no creativity or innovation. She hinted that she was cooking up something to help us all get curious, and I made her promise to come back. So today is the day. Karen's going to share with us what she's been working on, and I hear there might be an invitation or two along the way. Let me remind you a little bit about Karen. She's the founder of Curiosity Inc., a consultancy that helps teams strengthen their curiosity, creativity, and collaboration muscles. And Curiosity Global, an online community devoted to driving change through acts of curiosity, creativity, and connection. Prior to founding Curiosity in 2005, Karen worked as a strategist and insight specialist for a number of Fortune 500 clients and large advertising agencies in both Canada and the US, helping them to craft meaningful, people-centered businesses and communication strategies. All right, Karen, let's get started. What have you been cooking up? Come on, spill the beans.
I'm back. I'm happy to be back. So what have we been working on? We have been working on 3 things actually, with both teams and individuals in mind. I'll outline what they are first, and then I'll explain what each one is. So the first one is called Curiosity Summer Camp, which is it's a virtual summer camp that will be hosted online, but it's being designed to get people out into their local natural spaces and neighborhoods, and that is being designed for individuals and teams. Then we have another program called Curious Eyes for Teams, which is actually a program that I developed when I was wandering around Lisbon over 3 years ago, that we have been running as a global community project that we're now bringing into organizations that are looking for interesting ways to keep their teams connected and really communicating and collaborating together over things that are other than work, but really serve and support the work that we're doing. So Curious Eyes for Teams. And then the final piece is called Street Wisdom, which is a project that I've been involved in for the last 3 or 4 years. It's a program that was started in the UK by a guy named David Pearl. And we've been adapting it. It's normally an urban-based walk shop. So we do the experience in a city environment with the team, and we go out and use the streets as our collaborator and inspirer, source of inspiration. And that we've adapted to make sense for people that are working from home. We can still do it as a collaborative experience, hosting it online, but again, inviting people out into the street. So those are the 3 things that we're cooking up, and we're ready to go on both Curious Eyes for Teams and Street Wisdom, and Curiosity Summer Camp is coming up the first 2 weeks of August. So that's what we've been cooking. And some of them are baked and some of them are still in the oven.
Well, that sounds really exciting. I want to know a little bit more. So because I'm going to dive deeper. You're just giving us
Yeah.
the surface, and I can tell.
Yeah.
So, I know what it's like being a creator. You often, feel like you don't want to do too much with your baby yet because it might not be quite ready to be seen. So I'm going to pull back the blankets a little bit.
Yeah, do it. I'm happy to share the baby.
Good. So, summer camps are something that a few of us have had some experience with. And I know myself, I've gone to a couple of, sort of multi-day summer camps, and they're amazing, play and interaction with people. Now, I know you've also gone to a couple and you've hosted a couple of your own. And I think the ones that you host are a little different than what I'm used to and maybe what our listeners are used to. So tell me, what does your summer camp look like? And why did you create this?
It's a great question. So you're right. I had my own, I didn't go to camp as a kid. I grew up on a farm. So, we kind of roamed around like wildlings on the farm during the summer. But as an adult, a few years ago, I went to Camp GLP, which was hosted in New York State. And that was my first camp experience as a grown-up. I went there for a few years. And then last summer, I had a really busy first couple of quarters of the year were very intense. And I made the decision midway through July that I was going to take August off. And as I approached the beginning of August, I was like, oh my, it's entirely possible with this blank slate of a month that I might slip into a Netflix coma, never to be heard from again. So I was just feeling like I needed just a tiny bit of structure for that month to really enjoy the time off and feel like I'd gotten something out of it other than, getting through my Netflix list. And so at the time, a lot of my friends who have kids were sending their kids to camp, or their kids were coming back from camp. And I'm like, I've never actually been to camp aside from Camp GLP. And I'm like, maybe that's an invitation for myself to curate a camp experience for myself. And so the idea of like Curiosity Summer Camp was born. And I spent the month curating a camp experience for myself. And it was everything from doing Airbnb experiences in Montreal to going to concerts. I was in Toronto for a week during that month of August, and I did a bunch of cool stuff there. I just was like hungry to learn new random things and experience stuff that I'd never experienced before, including something like ziplining, which was terrifying and I never have to do again. But that was like, I really was in exploration, discovery, and learning new things mode. And I loved it. It was like one of the best summers I've had in years. And as I was doing all of this, I was sharing it on social media, and I kept getting all this feedback saying, wait, what's happening? Are you hosting a camp? Like, can we join? What's going on? And there was so much energy around my own experience curating camp that I realized, I'm like, there's something interesting here. Like, there's something interesting about a curated collection of activities in this camp package. And so at the end of August, I invited people to tell me via a survey, like, what was so interesting about what you saw me doing. And there were sort of three key themes that came back. One was, I'm super keen to do new stuff that's cool, but I only have time to do the thing, not figure out and find the thing to do, because that feels a bit overwhelming. It'd be really fun to do it with other people. Like, and this is what I was feeling like people wanted to join in. And again, I just want someone else to do it for me. Like, can you please curate and concierge it for us? And so I initially thought I was going to host a Curiosity Summer Camp, a pilot here in Montreal this summer. But even last year, when I got the feedback on that survey, I have a pretty global community as a result of having done the My Curious Eyes project for the last 3.5 years. And what I learned in that survey is that people actually wanted to be able to do it regardless of where they were in the world. So it's like, Montreal would be amazing, but that's going to be expensive for me to travel to. And little did we know, months later, that wouldn't be an option to us anyway. So it was the plan always to do a virtual version of Curiosity Summer Camp. And that's what we're building. And so we started designing the programming last month. It's coming together so well. It gives me goosebumps actually when I start talking about it. And we've been designing it with a few things in mind. One is just joy. Like, I feel myself, I'm starving for joy, starving for things that feel fun and light and full of color and ease, but also like some exciting energy, right? That just feels like you can break out of the like same old monotony that has been our lives for the last several months. So joy has been a design criteria. The other thing we've been thinking a lot about is we're designing this for grown-ups because that's my passion, is designing beautiful experiences for adults, and reconnecting them with some of the things we were so good at as kids: curiosity, creativity, and connecting with people with more effortlessness. And so we're designing for grown-ups, but of course I'm very sensitive to the fact that the grown-ups around the world who are parents are going to have their kids with them for a lot of the summer and even into the school year to some degree. And so we're designing camp with adults in mind, knowing that kids will be involved too. And that felt really important, that we designed for the grown-ups, but in a way where they could integrate their small people into the experience. And then the other thing we're just thinking about is like, what's the most random stuff we can bring into this program so that people experience delight and surprise and getting out of their grown-up heads and into their hands, making stuff and exploring what's around them with fresh eyes. Because I think most of us aren't wandering too far afield this summer. Restrictions vary based on where you live. But we really want to invite people into wandering around and experiencing and exploring where they are with fresh, curious eyes, with gratitude, and with like, let's just go joy hunting for a couple of weeks. So that's the plan. That's what we're working on. And it makes me so happy to do it and host it.
So I definitely want to be there.
Yeah, good.
No
It's the first 2 weeks
question.
of August. Yeah.
Can't wait. I've been, like you, you say you've been looking for joy. I've been talking to a few of my friends and we're all, in this little box right now of
Yeah.
Zoom, or, the social distance box of you need to stay 6 feet away, or, the mask on. And so we can't really, feel each other in the same way. And I keep saying, I am dying for that, that silly laughter that,
Yes.
when old friends get together and, it's not about anything in particular. You just find yourself in gales of giggles. And,
Yes.
and I miss that. It's harder to do it when you're, on Zoom.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. So,
Mhm.
so tell me, I'm still working pretty much full time.
Mhm.
I know some people had some time off. That wasn't the case for us here at Talk Boutique, but which we're quite grateful for. That said, I think people will still have to be working. And so is the Curiosity Summer Camp something people have to take time off for? Or is this something you can do in addition to work? Is it one more thing, or is it one more thing? And I
Mhm.
think you know the difference between what I mean
Oh, yes, I do.
there.
So the answer is you absolutely can. So last year, I gave myself the gift and was lucky to be able to take a month off. And so I threw myself into lots of adventures, multiple ones a day sometimes. We're not building camp that way this year. So we're building it with a few more things in mind, in addition to what I mentioned earlier. One is the expectation that people will likely be working. And if not, if they're not working, if they don't have a work schedule, they may also be, responsible for childcare. So it's being designed where each day we'll release a couple of activities. There's going to be workshops that are pre-recorded. There are going to be what we're calling campfire convos, which are live events, but of course will be recorded. So if you can come back and watch them later if you're not available. And then there'll be like little mini challenges that don't require you to be anywhere near your computer. They're just invitations for you to go out and experience your world in a different way. So we're going to run camp live over 2 weeks, from August 3rd to the 16th. And if you hear that and think, oh no, we're going to be away, we actually are going to be away, and we're really committed to being offline for those 2 weeks, totally cool. You can still register for camp. All of that content and the community space for it will be available until the end of September. So if you can't do camp with us live, you can come into the camp space and take anything you want from all the programming that we design and deliver, and curate your own camp for yourself and your kids, for your your pod, whoever's in your pod or your bubble. You can do that in a day, in a weekend. You can do it over the course of 2 months. It's entirely up to you. We're going to host a live experience for 2 weeks. That content's available for 2 months, and you can use it in whatever way fires you up. And the one other thing I wanted to mention that I forgot earlier from a design criteria perspective, because I've done a lot of traveling and I did a master's in Scandinavia, I have the amazing gift of a very international network. And so one of the things I did was reach out to my friends around the world and ask them, would they like to come and teach something? Because one of the things I'm certainly feeling is how contracted my world got. Like it really became this small apartment. And in addition to joy, the other thing I'm just craving is expansion. And, you know, we have a bit of that because we can now get out into our communities a little bit more with all the safety precautions that you mentioned off the top. But I really want, because we can't travel, I want us to be able to camp around the world in some way. So Yolanda's from South Africa. I just spoke with my friend Karen, who's in Johannesburg, and she's going to do a little cooking segment with one of her favorite South African, it's a dessert actually, which I can't wait for. Another friend, I have a couple friends in Australia that are doing stuff. I've reached out to my former tango teacher in Buenos Aires to see if he could do a little workshop for us on tango. So I really wanted to, and we're featuring a lot of great people in Montreal because that was important to me too. I want to showcase the amazing talent that's where I live. So yeah, it's my hope that it will feel expansive in a way that has maybe been hard to feel in the last several months. So yeah.
So that, you know, that it sounds amazing. And what I was getting the image, I'm such a visual person. And for me, I was getting the visual of, you know, the campfire and those campfire conversations, you know,
Yeah.
that we, you know, again, like you, I didn't go to summer camp as a child, but we did a lot of camping. And that's what I remember most about it is sitting around the campfires and
Mm-hmm.
having those, you know, conversations with people. And as you're talking, it suddenly started, I got the vision of like, you know, our Talk Boutique team, like maybe we could do a virtual summer camp with our Talk Boutique team.
Absolutely.
And so is this something that, you know, is good for team building, like for virtual, I don't know, is it a virtual retreat for a team? You know,
Yeah.
tell me about that.
It's a great question. I love that you asked this. So it's being designed for individuals to buy for themselves. But one thing I realized like 2 months ago when I was having conversations with friends of mine who are leaders, like business leaders who have teams, and talking about Curiosity of Camp, they're like, oh my, can we do that with our team? And I got clear on, we're not going to design custom camp experiences for every team that wants one. But what we can do in the camp space is create what I would call like a cabin, like a virtual cabin within the camp space, community space. And if you wanted to have your Talk Boutique gang join us, you could each sign up, or the company could sign you up if the company's going to pay for it. And then we can create a cabin within the camp space so that you guys can go through the global experience with all the campers. And we're hoping to have 200, 300, 400 people from around the world camping with us would be amazing. So you're going to have that global experience, but then you can also have within that global experience your own little cabin experience that's just for your team, which I'm really excited to try out. So we are going to limit the number of sort of business or organizational teams that come in because I really want it to be like a community experience. But we have set aside a certain number of spots for teams who want to bring their own group in with the proviso that they come not just as a team, but willing to come and have the experience with the larger community as well. Because by the way, you're going to get so much more out of it if you do it as a team in that larger community, because the people that are going to come in from different parts of the world is so inspiring. Really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Like having the experience of both the, you know, the global community, but then also having a team experience.
Yeah.
And especially right now, because, you know, like you said, we're all, you know, first of all, we've all been decentralized. And so we're not getting to see each other as much, or when we do, it's always work related. We don't have, you know, I mean, I think it's been one of the challenges of this pandemic and with the work from home order has been that, you know, we're not having the water cooler talks anymore.
Yes.
You know, we're not comparing notes on the latest Netflix shows. We're just not doing that because, you know, Zoom is taxing for many people.
Yeah.
And there's so much happening around them if they've got children at home with them. So those kinds of casual conversations and just the silliness, again, I come back to
Yeah.
that, it's like we've lost it a little bit. And
Yeah.
so coming together as a team, but also in a global community, I think
Yeah.
is really, really important.
It's going to be juicy. And I just want to mention one thing that I think is important, because I know from the conversations I've been having with my leader pals over the last couple of months, one of the things they're struggling with is a recognition that we need to come together and connect over things that are not work related. And
Yeah.
so the initial default was, oh, let's have lunch together on Zoom. Let's do virtual happy hours on Zoom. And so people are like, I'm in Zoom hell all day long, and my kids are trying to demand my attention, which is, their prerogative to do because they need help and love and attention. And what I love about something like Curiosity Summer Camp or My Curious Eyes for Teams, which is another experience that we haven't talked too much about, and even Street Wisdom, is that most of those experiences, 2 of those 3 experiences, are asynchronous, which
Right.
means you can enjoy them and you can connect through and over them on your time. And I think the other thing that's really important about thinking about some kind of virtual retreat for your team is understanding that it's not just your staffer, your employee that's going to be participating in that experience. You need to keep in mind and design for all of what's going on in their lives. And so that's why I love these asynchronous experiences that are more, sort of the 3 C's for us: curiosity, creativity, and connection based, is that you can engage your employees as the whole people they are in these experiences. And by the way, like doing something like Curiosity Summer Camp or even Curious Eyes with their kids and bringing in what they're seeing and experiencing and making together as a collective into that team experience or into that global community experience, I think it makes it richer. And I think we're dying to connect with each other as humans, not just worker bees.
Absolutely.
And so we've been thinking very deeply about how to do that using the virtual tools that are necessary given what's going on, but encouraging asynchronous connection and just flinging people out into their analog world with little adventures that make them appreciate and enjoy it that much more.
So let's bring this to life. One of our listeners has got a question, and I'm going to frame it a little bit. Bring it to life a little bit. Tell us what a day at camp could look like. Kind of frame it. Give us a sense of that day, or maybe a couple of days, so we can get a feel for it.
Sure. So every day, each camper will get an email from us. You'll get like a note from camp, and that will come from me. And in the note from camp will be 2 or 3 activities for the day. And again, with the exception of the campfire convos, which are live and scheduled, everything else will be pre-produced. So it will be unveiled on a daily basis. And you can go in and decide what you want to do that day. It can be all the things, it can be one thing, it can be the thing you didn't get around to yesterday that you really wanted to try. One of the things I'm going to do every day, and this is mostly because I have about 1,000 toilet paper rolls building up in my bathroom in a big plastic bin, I'm going to do, and I love crafts, so I'm going to do a daily toilet paper roll craft.
So you're going to help everybody. You're going to help.
You're going to make them beautiful. You're going to make those toilet paper rolls so beautiful. And these will be great crafts that you can do with kids too. And we're curating the programming around 3 content streams. So explore, express, move, eat, and make. So every day you'll get 2 or 3 activities, sometimes 4 with the toilet paper daily activity, that touches on one or more, or has been inspired by one or more of those content streams. So it will be everything from, I just confirmed with a mixologist in Toronto yesterday, we're going to do Anne of Green Gables cocktails, which is inspired by the fact that I have gone back to Anne of Green Gables during COVID and reread those books. My mom is from Prince Edward Island. So
I didn't realize that Anne drank.
But she did get into some current wine that she thought was raspberry cordial. So that's inspired a mocktail workshop. One of the things I did here last year was I love chai lattes, especially from Starbucks, but almost anywhere else too. And there's a guy named Gabriel who is a chai latte, he's a tea expert, a tea specialist here in Montreal. And so he did an in-person workshop last year, and it was one of the highlights for me. So I talked to him last week. He's coming back. He's going to do a chai workshop. And this is where you actually, he will give you a spice list, and it's stuff you can get at your grocery store. And he's going to teach us how to make authentic chai. And friends, it's even better than Starbucks. And that's really empowering. Like, I think that's the other thing about learning how to make stuff with your hands, even like origami things. It feels really good. Like, it makes you, gives you agency as an adult, as well as, you know, kids too. So what else have we got? We're going to do, I've been really curious about parkour lately. Like, you know how you see in like Bond movies and adventure movies, like people bouncing around rooftops. So that's well outside of my range of motion and skill. But parkour is this really interesting movement that has these really fascinating underlying philosophies that are relevant to all of us. So we have a group from the US that's going to do a workshop for us on parkour for everyone. So how you can engage with the built environment around you in ways that heighten your awareness, help build strength and flexibility. So cool. Anyway, it's like, and there's going to be a writing stream. So if you're wanting to, like, you know, strengthen or stretch your writing muscles, there'll be invitations to do that as well. We're going to do a street wisdom within summer camp. I'm going to lead a street wisdom. It actually will be a recorded one, so you can do anytime. So yeah, anyway, I'm all over the place. All that to say, you'll get a daily missive from camp with what's being released that day, and then you decide. It really is choose your own adventure. So based on what we provide, you choose what you want to do. And what we're going to recommend and encourage everybody to do is the thing that feels least interesting to you, do that one. And of course, do the things that really call you as well. But that's been my experience when I've done camps. The one I curated for myself last year, as well as the adult summer camps I went to the few years prior, is I always challenge my stuff to, of course, say yes to the things that were an immediate, obvious yes. And then look for the things where you're like, what? Do that. Do that one. Do those two. At least a handful of them.
So the camps sound absolutely incredible. And, you know, I am definitely going to check them out. But as I think about it, you know, I want to bring our conversation back into the realm of curiosity and creativity. And, you know, in our last conversation, we talked a lot about this. And the camps themselves are, you know, yes, they're fun and they're engaging, but I actually think they have a bigger purpose. I think there's more to it than just all of us getting out of the little Zoom box and actually, you know, being silly and laughing. What happens? Why is doing this type of creative activity important? You know, you're an expert on this, so Karen, tell us about that.
There's so much research, like stacks of research, that tell us that when we are stuck on a problem or a challenge or an opportunity that we're trying to like untangle or tease out or figure out, it's very easy to get kind of monofocused or bring only that which is immediately around us or our existing knowledge and experience to bear on that challenge. And what I talk about a lot, to the point of being annoying, I'm sure, with my clients, is how important it is to have what I would call like adjacency in your life. So adjacent content, adjacent concepts, adjacent experiences. And by adjacent, I mean like adjacent to, maybe not in any way related to what your work is every day. And the reason why that's so powerful is because it lights up different parts of our brain. So if what you make most of the time is like emails and PowerPoint presentations, getting out, which by the way, those are great superpowers to have when you do them well. They are acts of creativity, certainly. But when you can get out of your head, where a lot of us spend most of our time as adults, and into your hands, or out of your walls, or out of the Zoom box, into, even if it's the environment that you walk through to get to the groceries every day, or when you go grocery shopping, seeing that with fresh eyes through prompts or invitations, little missions, it fires up your brain in a way that is really useful when you come back. It's like fresh air for your mind. It's fresh air for your brain. And the other thing I think in terms of having different kinds of experiences, even if they don't feel, because I think as grown-ups we get very stern and stuffy about like, well, this isn't practical and it's not related and it's a waste of time. Learning is never a waste of time. Any kind of learning, any kind of novel experiences, none of that is a waste, because then you draw all of that into your reservoir of interesting experiences and cool things you've learned how to do that you can then draw upon. It's like, oh my God, I learned how to make this origami box, and that process totally made me wonder or ask a different question about this challenge that we're struggling with at work. And I know that sounds bananas. It happens all the time. And I think what I get excited about with these virtual retreats is giving people a place to rest in playful curiosity and creativity, so they can find that joy, reconnect with that joy and that sense of play and wonder, learn some new stuff, tangible stuff that makes you feel competent and good. Because I think a lot of us are not feeling super capable and good because we're trying to manage a situation that is so unprecedented, which is the most overused word in our English language right now. But I think we're struggling to feel capable and competent, and learning how to make new stuff is so good for our hearts and minds. And drawing that back into the work that we need to do on a daily basis, it is like oxygen. And there's so much research that supports that.
Oh, I mean, we work with a lot of scientists and academics and neuroscientists, and there's something that, I think I've learned over and over again is the associative nature of the brain. Associative and predictive, those two things sort of go hand in hand. And what I find fascinating about, creativity when it comes to being more on point or on target with outcomes, is that creativity gives us those associations, right? So our brain, which is always looking for solutions that will match what a predicted outcome will be. And so creativity allows it to align in a way that it couldn't have, because if it's only going down a well-worn path, it can only go down the well-worn path. Yes. When you give it a side road to take, suddenly the brain says, I wonder if there's a new answer down there. And it starts associating where it's going with where it's been. And that is what brings out some of those aha moments, because that's often what happens. The other thing that it does too, and I learned this back, both of us were in advertising, and I remember learning about how our brain actually output strategy. And there was really three things that, and it was fascinating to me. And the first was it needs input. We all know that you need lots of what's called pattern loading. Mm-hmm. You got to do pattern loading. You got to put all of that information in. Then your brain needs a rest. It's got to process. So go do something else. Don't try and work on that thing that you just put into your brain. Go do something else.
Work beside it. That's right.
Work beside it. And then the third thing, which I still to this day find fascinating, is you add heat. And it's, I think and it's interesting again, if I think about creativity, and adding heat is physically adding heat. So that's why we have our best ideas in the shower, or adding heat in the way of pressure, which is why so many people have pressure good ideas. But you can also add heat by doing things that heat you up, that have you have fun.
Feel a little uncomfortable. It's like, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah,
raise your blood pressure, right?
Yes.
So creativity can do that as well, and so it can add. It can be the side road that we take, and it can also be the heat that helps us get to that output. So what a fascinating use of a summer camp. I mean,
that's right. Really. And the way that I think and talk a lot about it a lot is, for me, curiosity, it's what you talked about, like pattern. What was the language you used? Pattern loading. Pattern loading. So I call that dot connecting, because I'm a simple person. So dot collecting. It's like you just, Steve Jobs and many, many others talked about creativity being connecting things. So I think about that as like dots. So in my life and in my work, as I used to be a researcher, it's like we need to connect the most diverse set of dots we possibly can, ones that are very specific to your business challenge, and ones that are kind of like adjacent, or maybe not even, they're like super far out, but we're going hunting for inspiration, insight, and ideas wherever we can find it. So we want to collect lots of dots. Because if creativity is about connecting things, connecting those dots, if you have like a teeny tiny bucket of dots, your creativity is pretty limited. It's like super sad creativity in this box. But if you have this big barrel full of diverse and disparate dots that you've collected from reading you've done, things you've watched, things you've done, because I think physically doing things, not just like braining it all the time, is really important because it engages our multiple kinds of intelligence: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual even. And yeah, we want a great big barrel to draw from. And what I'm super excited about with summer camp and things like Curious Eyes and Street Wisdom is that it not only gives that, it's going to provide lots of dots for you to then connect to other things you're working on. But I think what's really important to me is it helps you build some good dot collecting muscles and some good dot connecting muscles. And we need both, right, to make magic out of our lived experience through the work that we're doing and the parenting that we're doing and the relationship facilitation that we're doing in our lives. It's not just about feeding this into work. It's about living richer, deeper, juicier lives. And that's always important, crazy important right now.
Absolutely. And, as you were talking about the barrel of dots, I was seeing the thousand colors of crayons. Because, we all agree that more colors are better than less, right?
Right.
Clearly, I like color.
Yeah.
And so,
Me too.
Yeah, yes. And so, I think we can all relate to that idea of having the diversity of thinking, having the diversity of options, having the diversity of ideas, because we do get caught in our own little boxes. And we do think, and it's of course hard to get out of this, is that the world is not just like me.
That's it.
Like I am one in an array of billions. And so when I can experience as many of those billions as possible, and I can then start to understand the commonalities and the differences and see where there's intersections and where there is absolutely nothing that's in common, that's where it gets exciting, right? That's where new ideas come from. And suddenly, like we use the word intersectionality a lot right now. We hear it in our vocabulary. But if you think of it not in the context of gender, which is often where it's being used, or in race, but if we look at it in the context of the bigger world of the intersectionality of all of the things that we do, it's where the best ideas live.
Always.
And so living in those intersections is really fun, but you got to have them. You got to have
it. Exactly. If you only have 2 dots, there's like 1 intersection. If you have 5,000, there are limitless intersections and opportunities for mashup and divert. Like it's so juicy. The one thing I wanted to mention, because I know we're coming close on time here, is that in addition to diversity of content and experiences that people can have in camp, we were also very, very conscious and intentional about inviting diverse contributors into camp this year, which was a priority for us when we started thinking about it last fall. And we just recommitted to that in a very intentional way as we were designing things. So that's everything from regional diversity, racial diversity, ethnic, identity diversity. Like we're really, really conscious of that. And I think that's also going to, well, I know, not I think, it's going to make it is making it already very so dynamic and interesting in terms of who's going to show up, what they're going to teach, where they're from, what they're bringing to it. It's going to be awesome. So
Karen, this has been absolutely incredible. Always a joy to talk to you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you.
We could talk for hours, I know. And so as we're getting ready to wrap up, actually, we just got another question.
Okay.
Would love to know the website where Karen will be posting info every camp registration. So I was just going to go there and say, I know we've got some people wanting to register.
Yes.
So tell us, what is the best way to get more information or to register for the Curiosity Summer Camps? And when exactly are they happening?
Yes. So Curiosity Summer Camp the live edition is going to run from August 3rd, a Monday, to August 16th will be the closing ceremonies, which is a Sunday. And we're going to do like a camp meal together that's going to be facilitated by my friend Janice in London, who runs this great experience called Eating with Elephants. So August 3rd to August 16th. And then we're still working on the website and the sales page. So if you want to get on the list to make sure you get the information about camp, you can email me directly. So it's Karen@curiosityglobal.com. And curiosityglobal.com is going to be the HQ for Curiosity Summer Camp. So that's also the place you can check early next week. If you're interested in a team experience, it's best to email me directly, because then we can figure out how to work out the mechanics of getting everybody signed up if the company is paying. And if you're interested in Curious Eyes for Teams or Street Wisdom, the other two things that we mentioned, the information for that will be over on curiosityinc.com. And you can email me directly, because there's nothing there yet. We're building the road as we drive here. You can email me about that at Karen@curiosityinc.com or curiosityglobal.com. Either is fine. Just let me know what you're interested in, and we'll take care of you.
Great.
And we'd love to have people from everywhere and anywhere join us.
And for anyone listening, we are going to be sending this out in an email to everyone who has registered today. So check your email, you'll get all of that information, and we'll make sure to post it in a link under this video, which will be hosted both on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So we'll make sure that the links to Curiosity Summer Camp, or actually to Karen, are listed there.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to sort of take a moment and let our guests know about what's happening next week. And then Karen, I'll give you the opportunity to just have one last word with our guests. So for those of you who are listening, next week on July 8th, join us for a courageous conversation with John Robinson Jr. and his guest, Akil Augustine, who is the host of NBA TV Canada. They're going to be having a courageous conversation about anti-racism and sports. So that's one not to be missed. And then on July the 10th, in our next Sense Making Conversation, I will be speaking with Parul Bansal, who will be talking about diversity and inclusion and maybe some of the ways that we're not completely understanding what it truly means. So that's going to be an interesting conversation as well. Karen, again, thank you so much. I'm going to give you the opportunity to have a couple of last words with our guests, and then we will say goodbye.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me back, Andrea. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm really fired up about what we've been working on. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about it. So my closing reflections would be, if you have a team that you feel like they need some joy back in the relationships they have with each other and the work that you're doing together, please reach out and let's talk about getting a virtual treat together for your group, which can be Curiosity Summer Camp or some combination of what we've been talking about. And if you are an individual, which of course you all are, and you're feeling like, I just need some fresh air in my heart, lungs, and mind, I hope you'll join us. And I'll mention actually the early bird pricing, in case people are wondering about that. Early bird pricing is going to be $197, and then it will bump up to $247 after the early bird period. So we have deliberately kept it as accessible as we possibly can for a 2-week program. I think that's very reasonable. I spent almost $2,000 on my summer camp last year. So we wanted to make this one really accessible for as many people as possible, both teams and individuals. So yeah, I hope you'll join us. Get in touch.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Get out, get some sun, and stay healthy and stay connected. Take care, all.